Well, to discuss the European point of view, let's go live to Düsseldorf and talk to Willy Wimmer. He's a veteran German politician who served as a Defence Ministry State Secretary, as well as an MP and Vice President of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Now, more than a decade ago, you alerted your then leadership of the disturbing connection you saw between the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia and ambitions for the alliance to expand. Now, I've got some extracts from the letter you wrote to Gerhard Schroeder, and this was after a conference organised by the US State Department. Let's just take one of these extracts now and listen to one of the conclusions that you reached here, which obviously caused you some concerns. And one of those conclusions was it would be good during NATO's current enlargement to restore the territorial situation in the area between the Baltic Sea and Anatolia, that's of course modern-day Turkey, such as existed during the Roman Empire. Do you think today that those plans still exist? And is the crisis in Ukraine all part of this?
Hello to Moscow. I think what I wrote to Gerhard Schröder and as well to Angela Merkel in May 2000 is exactly what is going on in these days. During the conference in Bratislava, which was high-ranking with state presidents, prime ministers, defense and foreign ministers, and organized by the top leadership of the US State Department, they made a proposal to draw a line between Riga on the Baltic Sea, Odessa on the Black Sea, and Diyarbakir. All the territories west of this line should be under US domination. And the territories east of this line, there might be the Russian Federation or somebody else. That was a proposal, and when we see developments since then, I think it's like a schedule which had been presented to the conference participants. Everything happens exactly like it was on the timetable in Bratislava.
All right, let's have another extract now, another passage from your letter right now, which I'd like you to comment on. The quote is, "In all processes, people's rights to self-determination should be favoured over all other provisions or rules of international law." Now, that, of course, at that time was agreed upon by all the Western leaders, and yet now we're seeing an adverse reaction to a referendum being held in Crimea. Why would they be so against that idea now?
Yeah, because they didn't make it. What we saw since the middle of the 90s, I think, causes all these problems we have today. Until the mid-90s, all major powers agreed in international law and in cooperation. But in the middle of the 90s, the United States changed habits, changed attitude. They no longer pursued international law, they proposed the law of the jungle. And the beginning was the war against Yugoslavia. And since then, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, what you know, everything is going because of these developments. And they no longer stick to international law and to cooperation. They make use of the military might, and this creates the trouble and the fear we have in Europe.
Let me ask you about the current situation, that government in Kiev, because many are saying, even indeed David Cameron was saying, that any referendum in Crimea would be illegitimate because it isn't being recognised by that interim government in Kiev. Do you see that government in Kiev legitimate?
I think it was a putsch, a coup d'etat, what happened in Kiev. And what we heard in the news before, OSCE, and I'm totally surprised, OSCE and other international bodies are doing what they can to create a legal framework for a government which is not legal at all. And the problem we have with this government is they are not only not legal, they are working together with people who will be forbidden sooner or later by the Supreme Court here in Germany. Right-wing people, Nazis, fascists. It is interesting and outstanding that no Western government is talking about these people who created already once last century disaster, terror and wars in Europe.
So why
and
is
now
that?
These
Why
people
is that
come
the
back.
case? Why is the legality not being questioned, and indeed the nationalist, the extremist element within the Kiev government being overlooked now by Western politicians?
Yeah, because these new Nazis are our good Nazis now, and this is disastrous for all over Europe.
And are they a real threat then? Because obviously some people are exaggerating this nationalist element within the Kiev government. Russia's very concerned, and indeed those people in Crimea and the east of the country. Do they then really have fears? Fears that are justified?
It's not only the people in the Ukraine or in the Crimea or in Russia. The fear is in Düsseldorf, in Cologne, in Paris and London as well. I think we didn't create this modern type of Europe to have these people back again.
So what should now the next step be for some political resolve to be achieved between Russia and the EU and indeed the US? Because many are saying Moscow shouldn't even consider backing this referendum on what's happening in Crimea and indeed withdraw all its forces from Crimea.
I'm living here in Germany, and next Thursday the Federal Chancellor, Dr. Merkel, will give a speech to the German Bundestag because of the situation in the Ukraine. And I expect, I'm not referring to Crimea or to Moscow or to Kiev, I expect here in Berlin that she will address this Nazi question, that she will address the massacre on the Maidan Square. If this would have happened in China, there would be an uproar in Western countries. Everybody is quiet here. And why? Why doesn't the Council of Europe take into consideration to make an inquiry as well as the OSCE? And I expect Dr. Merkel to address these issues. And we had a major party conference of our Bavarian brothers some days ago. And the main speaker, Peter Gauweiler, addressed this audience with an appeal not to forget the friendship with the Russian people.
Willy Wemmer, we'll leave it there. Former German MP and Vice President of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Thank you very much indeed for your thoughts live here on RT International. Very good to get your perspective. Thank you.